I create this video in honor of my clear sight and in honor of Raven. Please, dear God, Creator, please protect this video and protect me and protect the things that I love. Please make sure that the only people who find this video are those who need this video. If GIGI Young finds this video, please make sure that I am protected. And please make sure that all the information comes through in the highest good, that it's balanced with the black and the white sun, and that it's healing portals for everyone's soul. And please protect me. Thank you. I acknowledge that in this video I have used absolutely no footage of GIGI Young in any capacity except for the emails that have been exchanged between me and Doug, that I have explicitly stated in the email that I will use in the YouTube video. So, with all that is said, please protect my work, God, and please make sure that it's in the highest good. So would it be. Hi, what's up? My name is Saruanayan Arcasia Raven. You can call me Saru for short. This is my YouTube channel where I talk about stuff. I am super into so many different things. I'm a multimedia artist, painter, singer. I also write books. I'm also a witch. I'm also a working psychic. So I got a lot of stuff going on. This channel is still super new. Shout out to my 35 subscribers. Hello. I've tried to make this video so many times, and I have deleted most of my attempts to make this video. And the reason why is because information that I know has been grounded in my body, and the act of putting this information into the world it's a difficult and time-consuming thing. And so I'm very intentional and meticulous about the way that I transmit this information. And it's also difficult information to transmit because I feel like I'm in trouble. A lot of my, if you're a psychic, you might understand this, but for me in my life, a lot of the things that have to do with me perceiving things spiritually, I have a tendency to be privy to things that are hidden and that people don't know, and that if I was to put it out there, people wouldn't want it to be out there. And I've learned the hard way about that, and it's a thing that I'm still working through. Now, I don't know how you've discovered my channel. I don't know what exactly you're drawn to here, because there's so many different things, but whatever reason, why ever you're here, I'm glad you're here. Welcome. Eventually I'll have a good synthesis statement of what really is going on here, but right now, I mean, the best way I can say it is, this is just the space where I allow myself to use my voice, and I speak on many things. Okay, so welcome. I'm gonna take out my notes. We are here in the woods, and it's a beautiful, beautiful April day. So I also just want to say, if you're not, if you don't know who I'm talking about in this video, if you don't know occult stuff, that's okay. I'm sure you'll learn something here if you're drawn to it. Like I said, this is my platform where I use my voice, and I've been watching YouTube for 10 years, so I'm very interested in it, and I have a lot of ideas and opinions about the people whom I've watched, and so this is my own way of kind of giving back to what I have received from YouTube. So, and specifically GIGI Young. Anyway, I'm just trying to find my notes here. I don't know if I even have my notes. I think I might have ripped them out and put them somewhere else, but I don't entirely know. Sorry. Okay. I'm a little scattered, as you guys can tell. It's okay though. We'll figure it out. So anyway, so yeah, so this is what's going on. So I've been watching Gigi Young's YouTube channel for the last 10 years, right? No, for the last 9 years. And like Gigi Young has been a really important like spiritual mentor figure in my life. And recently I have felt very ostracized by her on like a personal level and also sort of on like a spiritual level, and it's been a source of spiritual trauma for me. So I'm gonna share my story about that. And I'm probably gonna move the camera if the sun gets a little wacky, because, you know, we're in the woods, things are all shaky, matter's shaky, spirit's shaky, it's all shaky. So this is a story of what I've gone through in regards to this. And I made my first video was, and I've tried to make this video multiple times, like I said, okay? The first time I made it was a 45-minute long video essay that I spent like, I think a year working on. And it was a really important art project for me. I was working professionally in a therapeutic psychic setting, and whenever I would go into meditation, I would get these like visions and insights to like directly tell Gigi Young. And so after like questioning it for like a couple months, I finally like put together like a video. At first it was going to be a Word document. I professionally reached out to Wolf through her little online Q&A thing, and Wolf's her husband, or I think, and Wolf got back to me. I emailed him saying that I felt like there were some things that I needed to tell Gigi Young, and I thought that it was like important to her work, because I felt like she wasn't being fully inclusive. And he was like, oh, I'd like to know specifically what you mean. And I was like, okay, I'll send you a detailed document. And I started to write down this detailed document, and it was like 10 pages. And then like I was like, okay, this is not the right way to describe what I'm perceiving, because Gigi's psychic, so I want to give her psychic downloads directly from the source. And for me, like the best way that I'm able to articulate spiritual things is through the medium of film. So I made my own films, and I narrated things through those films for her. So it was like an art project. It was like a year-long art project. And when I finally had the video on YouTube, it was 45 minutes long or something. I emailed like the same people through her website, and I said, I have an hour-long video. I don't know if it's an hour or 45 minutes. I have like an hour-long video critiquing Gigi Young's work. And I didn't get any responses. And then a couple months later, in August, I got this like really angry email from, I think, her receptionist or like one of the people in her business, telling me that I had to take the video off YouTube and that I was violating boundaries and that I'm banned from her group publicly, and not publicly, I'm banned from like her like members platform. Saru. As the assistant administrator of GigiYoung.com, I am writing to inform you that you are in direct violation of our terms and service by publishing unauthorized video content on your YouTube channel that you obtained from Gigi's private members-only Q&A sessions. We have documented your agreement to these terms as well as your violations on our server, including timestamps and other relevant information. I cannot stress enough that we take copyright violations such as this extremely seriously. The content you have uploaded was never authorized for public use, and by creating your accounts at GigiYoung.com, you are legally bound to the terms and conditions of our platform, in addition to federal copyright laws. Please be advised that as a result of this breach, your membership has been permanently revoked and you are no longer permitted to access GigiYoung.com in any capacity. I strongly advise you to immediately remove all private content you obtained from GigiYoung.com from any platforms associated with you, including but not limited to YouTube. Failure to do so will result in further action to ensure the removal of this unauthorized material. I look forward to your prompt attention to this urgent matter. Sincerely, Doug. To which I responded, "Hi, Doug. I will be reading this email on the next Your Revive video I will make about Gigi Young. I will delete the one you guys want me to. I at least hope Gigi has watched the video, and thank you yourself for watching it. It's disappointing that you're censoring content the way YouTube does, but I respect your boundaries and can see, according to what you have said, that the email you sent me I have access to and can therefore use however I want." To which he responded, "Hi Saru, this isn't complicated, and I assure you that I am very serious when I say any unauthorized video content of Gigi needs to be removed immediately. Again, you're required to delete any and all videos of Gigi that you obtained via her private membership, as you do not have authorization to publish any private content, even if it's the form of a screen recording with you in front of it. We value the privacy of our active members, and the content itself is protected by federal copyright law and was never made public. Again, if this isn't done promptly, we will have no other choice but to take necessary actions in order to remove the video that you're not legally able to publish. Regards, Doug." And then I said, "Doug, I hear you. I delete it as soon as I can. Wishing you well. Hope you're okay." Alright, here's my reflection about all of this. I think that they have fair boundaries. Like, I think it's perfectly reasonable to not want private content online, and I think that they were just following through with the agreements that they had. But this did hurt my feelings, and it did really disappoint me for a couple reasons. The first being that I felt like I was treated as like a dangerous person when I was trying to help. And I also felt like, wow, this is how they treat people who question her work. That's kind of how it made me feel. I'm trying to not take it personally and just think that it was just like because I used private content, they're gonna have to make me delete my video. But I just saw like a deeper underlying layer of like the fear that Gigi has of like being found by people, and like her fear of like saying the wrong thing in public sort of like reverberating into her audience and reverberating into other parts of her life, to where like it just feels like judgment. I'm not really sure if that makes sense, but that's kind of how it made me feel. I felt like I was being punished, and at the time when I made those videos, I really didn't know that I wasn't allowed to share private content, and if I did, I wouldn't have. And I felt like they didn't value my work, and so I'm assuming that if they watch this video, they probably are not going to value it either, and I have to be okay with that. I'm really just making this video because I am healing from artist block, and this was a really big artistic loss for me, having my idol tell me that the video that I made for her was bad and that I have to delete it. Not that I want to call Gigi an idol, because that's not really how I feel, but it's sort of in like the more colloquial way I could say it. It's like basically a celebrity that I looked up to, like, not liking me personally. That's how I feel. And I think that that situation like made me really scared of my voice. So I kind of like just, yeah, like it's a weird feeling to feel controversial, so I just kind of like tried to not be. And I think that I'm making this video so that I can heal and so that I can have a voice. I hope that makes sense. I apologize also for disrespecting Gigi Young
and her platform's boundaries. I'm really sorry that I did that.
And it was like really hard for me because I spent so much time and energy critiquing her work, and I really cared about what I did, and it was done from this place of like genuine love and respect inside of me, and it was really difficult for me to receive that. So I'm once again looking for my notes. I swear that they're in this notebook, but they might not be, and if they're not, I'm gonna have to make them up as I go along. I feel like Gigi Young's community has changed, okay? So when she was like first starting out, she made like very experimental videos on YouTube, sort of just describing her experience about like the Pleiadians and like star seeds and all that stuff. And what drew me to her was actually Twin Flames Real Talk. I remember that video. I don't think she has it online anymore, but I remember specifically that she was wearing glasses with like pink or like red rims and a black and white striped shirt. And she had the vibes of like your older sister, and I thought that was so fun. And at the time, I was super into twin flame lore and was trying to like discern and figure out like what that means to me. And I was noticing a lot of people who were interested in twin flame lore just being really weird about it, and I didn't know where the line was. And when she made this video describing that she's seen a lot of abusive relationships justified in the name of twin flame content, and I found that very insightful. And I found her ability to delineate really deep cosmic truths while also sounding like casual and colloquial and kind of funny, and also like having strong boundaries about it. That was, really healing to me, especially to see a woman in such a place of like her own embodied power. I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed her energy. So ever since I watched that video, I pretty much like was a subscriber and like kind of watched all the videos she made. And I had my spiritual awakening pretty young. I was 12, and following the course of my life after that, I experienced like a lot of extremes, very profound suffering and very profound spiritual experiences. And it kind of set me on this path of going into heaven and then going into hell. I don't like using Christian terms, but that's just what came out. So I was navigating things that most of my peers in middle school and high school weren't navigating. I was going through things that I didn't know how to talk about. I was thinking about time travel in physics class. I was experiencing clairvoyance, claircognizance, clairsentience constantly. I couldn't turn it off, and it was affecting my whole life. And I was living in a town that was pretty wealthy and very focused on the mind, and people in my town didn't know the things that I know. Okay, we'll just say that. I remember like being 17 years old, and like if I walked past somebody who had like a certain negative energy about them, I would be in bed for like 4 hours because I was so debilitated by their vibes. Like it was a real big deal. And my parents were no help. They didn't know what was going on, and I'm like reading their minds and like knowing things, and it was just hardcore, you know. When I started to I don't want to say wake up, because never, let's be real, they never want to sleep. But when my psychic abilities started to, let's say when I became aware that I have psychic abilities, it wasn't like a gradual awakening for me. The moment that I realized that I could participate in the occult the way that I have in past lives. That's what happened. Like, I immediately started performing mediumship without knowing that I was performing mediumship, and there was just things that were happening that were really intense, okay? And I would watch Gigi Young's videos, and I would learn about things like the false light and, the lower astral realm and discernment. And it wasn't what she said that helped me. It was the fact that in her body, she had this openness about her that was like, I'm weird, you're weird, show me you're weird, And for her, like, spirituality and psychic abilities wasn't this crazy thing. And that's a big deal to me. That's a really big deal to me, because there were a lot of times in my life when people who had power over me, like my family, tried to institutionalize me for having psychic abilities. So the fact that I had this online mentor figure who was like, no, you're okay, no, psychic abilities show up in many different ways, like, I didn't think I was crazy, and that's why I was never institutionalized. So it was a really, really big deal to have that kind of figure in my life. It was a huge deal, okay? I don't know where I would be if I hadn't discovered Gigi Young's work. I'm not sure if I would be alive, okay? I know it sounds really hardcore, and I'm not ready to tell my story yet, but I've experienced, like, the darkest things, and being psychic is really hard. Like, people want it, people think they want it. I'm like, you don't understand. Like, you don't get it. Like, there's, like, so much that I experience during a given day that is just like, I'm navigating so many different realms at the exact same time, and it's like, it's not something that I can control. It's like a neurological thing that just happens. And I it's something that, like I feel like wrong, like I don't feel right in my body if I'm not navigating through all the realms. But oh my god, like, it's a lot, okay? It's a really big deal. And I would feel completely batshit crazy if I didn't have a role model in my, important years of development, being a teenager, who I could listen to in secret on YouTube, who was like, you're okay, so it was a really big deal. I started mediumship, I contacted people who I knew who crossed over when I was 16, and they came forward, and we had interactions. And when I was 18, my best friend and I at the time worked with the Ouija board, and that's when I allowed a spirit to enter my body, and I spoke, and it wasn't my voice, right? And after that experience, using a Ouija board, I had to drink, like, so much water, and I had to sleep, and I was exhausted, and I had not just Gigi Young, I also had other people in my life who were mentors to me, and they were like, don't do that. So I stopped using Ouija boards. But I always have said, like, I don't know if I would have known to stop doing that if I hadn't watched her content, Gigi Young's content. So it's a big deal. And also, like, I've always kind of been aware of, like, starseeds. Like, when I was a child, I believed that I was from another planet, and kids have the things that they play with, and I work with kids right now, so I'm like, oh my god, like, I see you, like, pretending to be an adult, right? Like, I'm studying early childhood education, and they say that when you are a kid, or when you watch kids and they play, they are preparing for the adult world, and they're playing, and they're like, what's the word, emulating what they see in their life, right? So, normal kids like play like, certain things. I pretended that I was a time traveler who was going back to my home planet. And my friends and I would get trash bags and we would like jump around with these giant trash bags. We were like, we're gonna go home. So, and I would have these little monster finger puppets that I called ink monsters. And each ink monster had a story. And all the ink monsters were androgynous. And they could choose whatever gender they wanted at whatever time they wanted, and they were also like all twin flames. Like all the ink monsters, like their twin flame was the one that was the same color as them. I didn't know they were twin flames. I didn't say that. I was just like, oh, they're the same soul. I was a really interesting little kid, and my ink monsters would hang out, and they would hang out on their planet. And I would go to Ink Monster Land, and I would cry. I'd be like, Mom and Dad, like, I want to go back to Ink Monster Land, And they'd be like, oh, I don't know, like Muggle parents, right? They're like, oh, it's okay. And so I was just like really out there, right? So when I discovered Gigi Young's work, like it was never like a big revelation to me. I was like, oh yeah, like Starseeds, like cool, but it was never like I was never super into it. Like I was never super into her Starseed content. Like I wasn't watching her work for the Starseed content. I was watching her work for like the energy that she embodied in her body that like activated in my body and helped me remember my own truth, I guess. So like and like she had this like radical openness in her, this radical clairvoyant openness, because she was perceiving aliens, and she was like, I'm not psychic like other people, I'm perceiving aliens. And I was like, that's so cool, So I was watching her content from that place. And yeah, so I'm like, this is what I do when I'm outside. I like need dirt in my hands because it like helps me ground. Oh shit, my laptop's almost dead. I'm gonna keep going until my laptop dies. So anyway, Gigi Young's work got super impactful for me around 2020 because I lived in a very wealthy place where there were secret societies happening like all the time. And I started to perceive these secret societies around the time when I began practicing massage therapy and my kundalini started to like move around my body and I was having some experiences. This was also when my mother tried to institutionalize me, and psychiatrists were trying to put me on lithium because they thought that I was bipolar, which doesn't actually make sense because lithium is not even the right drug to prescribe to bipolar people. But needless to say, that was happening. My healing gifts were becoming activated. When people were working on me and doing energy work, my heart would start and stop. There were things happening that were very supernatural around me all the time. And while this was happening, I was realizing that there are some really bad secret societies out there. And I was driving around places that I lived near, like Pebble Beach, California, where there are Freemasons, and everyone there is like a millionaire. And I would feel the energy of things that are happening underground that are illegal. Okay? And it was making me feel horrible. And it was making me feel so depressed. And I would cry. And I was just really scared because I couldn't talk to my mom about it. I couldn't talk to my dad about it. I couldn't talk to anybody about it except other people who were like really out there, right? And I was finding other people who were really out there. Some of them were like so out there that they kind of like lost touch with the ground. And then eventually I just moved out of that city because I was just like, I gotta get the fuck out. I know too much. But let's just say I was scared. Okay? I was scared, and like I didn't know, because okay, back in those days, in like 2019, that was like way before Google did whatever weird shit Google did. Because now, like, ever since COVID, like the algorithm of like search engines like fucking sucks, and like I can't access the correct secret society information that I used to be able to access pretty easily. And anyway, that's like a different subject. Like, what's up with that, Google? I'm gonna have to talk to my coder friends and be like, why? Why? But if you know, you know, right? So anyway, so like I was like finding stuff online, and like at the time Gigi Young was not talking about like secret societies and stuff. But then when she made the In Plain Sight series, I was like, oh my god, I felt so protected because I was discovering things that were horrifying, like the worst things I've ever heard of in my entire life. And I was discovering them alone, and I was discovering them alone with my abilities. So I was having these nightmares. I mean, looking back, I think that what I was really doing is I was astral projecting to certain things that were happening in the world. And I was also feeling my own soul level positioning in all of this, which is that my soul has been victimized by certain interdimensional situations. And I am now in a state of healing from that and empowerment from that, but it's been a journey and a half. Um, so I was really, really, really in that. I was really in that energy. And so when Gigi Young started to make content explaining why secret societies are the way they are, explaining how magic and symbolism works, it ignited so much remembering in me that I was able to see through society in this way that empowered me and made me feel stronger. And I was able to, on an energetic subconscious level, find my positioning as a magician in society today and what I can do today. So it was a really big deal. It was a huge deal. And then, oh my God, during 2021, during her ISIS video era, I was like, it resonated with me so deeply that I like remembered like her, like it was like this. It was like I could feel her own initiations and remembering that path of Venus and the divine feminine. And there was so much peace and wisdom that she held in her body that she preserved in her films that she made, that I'm speculating were probably visions that she had that she tried to recreate in the form of videos, because that's what I do. Those videos were so impactful for me that I remember watching them and like crying and tearing up and being like, wow. And like that was really cool because during that moment, like in my own life, I was doing a sort of spiritual healing where I was making flying ointments or magical salves that I put on my body to essentially heal soul fragments. So when I was like doing that and I was meditating and I was healing my soul, I was watching like Gigi Young's Isis Rising series, and I was like, yeah, like that makes sense. Like it makes sense that Venus is Earth's higher self. It makes sense that like, you know, beings come from Venus and then come to Earth, and that Venusians incarnate into human bodies. Like it just makes so much sense. And I was like, yes, like, oh yes, that makes a lot of sense. And then I moved again to the woods where I am now today, and I realized that I am transgender. And that was really fucking hard because I was at the time just like operating out of like divine feminine, woman, womb oriented spirituality. And to have this realization that, oh fuck, like I'm actually a man, was so hard because there's no like trans content about spirituality. Gigi Young started to say that, you know, the human body is like our direct connection to God, and like the body's a temple, and like okay, but like why do I have to change my body? Like is that evil? And then that's when she started to talk about the divergent path and the convergent path. Whoa, look at that. That's cool. Anyway, the divergent path, which is disconnected from Earth, and the convergent path, which is like earthy as fuck. And I started to worry that like being trans was like transhumanist. And I started to worry that I was doing something wrong by being who I am. And I felt so weird. I didn't understand why my spiritual experiences were leading me to need to change my physical body. And it wasn't as though I wanted to. I really didn't want to. If you watch my journey, you'll see how much I didn't want to. If you're psychic and you watch my journey, you will see how much I didn't want to. Like, I was practically like resisting life and resisting death by avoiding transitioning. And I feel like if I transitioned sooner, I probably would have had less suffering in my life. And I don't know, you know, it's the thing I think about. I'm like, damn, maybe I wouldn't have called the suicide hotline as many times as I did if I transitioned just a little earlier in my life. But anyway, yeah, so that was a thing. And while she was talking about this divergent path that people should not take and transhumanism is evil, she no longer had that like openness and gentleness in her body. There was no longer this like, show me you're weird. It was like, okay, there are the good weirdos and there are the bad weirdos. And don't be a bad one. Because if you do, you are going to go down the divergent path. And it felt so similar to there's a good way of being and there's a bad way of being. And if you do the bad way of being, you're going to go to hell. And then I started to think, and I was like, you know what? Like, that's a really Christian way of thinking, right? You're going to go to hell. And then I was like, oh, wait a second. Like, she's actually teaching esoteric Christianity because she's talking about Steiner. And then I started to think, I was like, wait a second. Like, didn't Rudolf Steiner, like, wasn't Hitler into Rudolf Steiner? Like, wasn't Hitler, like, into that stuff? And I probably should do more research. So edit this, Saru. But I'm pretty sure that was the case. I'm pretty sure that was the case.
What's up? This is future video editing Saru, and yeah, it's true. I had no idea how deep this shit goes. Let me spell it out for you. Alright, so this information is from Anthroposophy and Ecofascism by Waldorf Critics International, the website. In June 1910, Rudolf Steiner, the founder of Anthroposophy, began a speaking tour of Norway with a lecture to a large and attentive audience in Oslo. The lecture series was titled The Mission of National Souls in Relation to Nordic Germanic Mythology. In the Oslo lectures, Steiner presented his theory of folk souls or national souls, Volksseelen in German, Steiner's native tongue, and paid particular attention to the mysterious wonders of the Nordic spirit. The quote-unquote national souls of Northern and Central Europe belonged, Steiner explained, to the Germanic Nordic peoples, the world's most spiritually advanced ethnic group, which in turn the vanguard of the highest of the 5 historical quote-unquote root races. This superior 5th root race, Steiner told his Oslo audience, was naturally the Aryan race. If this peculiar cosmology sounds eerily similar to the Teutonic myths of Himmler and Hitler, the resemblance is no accident. Anthroposophy and National Socialism both have deep roots in the confluence of nationalism, right-wing populism, proto-environmental romanticism, and esoteric spiritualism that characterized much of German and Austrian culture at the end of the 19th century. But the connection between Steiner's racially stratified pseudo-religion and the rise of the Nazis goes beyond mere philosophical parallels. Anthroposophy had a powerful practical influence on the so-called quote-unquote green wing of German fascism. Moreover, the actual politics of Steiner and his followers have consistently displayed a profoundly reactionary streak. In 1902, Steiner joined the Theosophical Society and almost immediately became general secretary of its German section. Theosophy was a curious analogram of esoteric precepts drawn from various traditions, above all, Hinduism and Buddhism, refracted through a European occult lens. So in a sense, anthroposophy is sort of appropriating Eastern religion. Its originator, Helena Blavatsky, was the inventor of the quote-unquote root races idea. She declared the extinction of indigenous peoples by European colonialism to be a matter of quote-unquote karmic necessity. Theosophy is built around the purported teachings of a coterie of spiritual masters, otherworldly beings who secretly direct human events. These teachings were interpreted and presented by Blavatsky and her successor, Annie Besant, to their theosophist followers as special wisdom from divine sources, thus establishing the authoritarian pattern that was later carried over to anthroposophy. Steiner asserted that the root races follow one another in chronological succession over epochs, lasting hundreds of thousands of years, and each root race is further divided into quote-unquote subraces, which are also arranged hierarchically. By chance, as it were, the root race, which happened to be paramount at the time Steiner made these momentous discoveries, was the Aryan race, a term which anthroposophists use to this day. All racial categories are arbitrary social constructs, but the notion of an Aryan race is an especially preposterous invention. A favorite of reactionaries in the early years of the 20th century, the Aryan concept was based on a conflation of linguistic and biological terminology, backed up by, sorry, my cat's just right here, spurious quote-unquote research. The worst insult from an anthroposophical point of view in Steiner's dictum is that people of color can't develop spiritually on their own. They must either be quote-unquote educated by whites or reincarnated into white skin. Europeans, in contrast, are the most highly developed humans. Indeed, quote, Europe has always been the origin of human development for Steiner and for anthroposophy. There is no doubt that, quote, whites are the ones who develop humanity in themselves. The white race is the race of the future, the spiritually creative race. So this is sort of proof that Steiner was overtly racist. And on the website, you can look at the numbers, and they point to the sources to which this information is found. And these are all like books by Rudolf Steiner. So let's go ahead and go to number 14. Hold on as I flip through this. So Steiner said those things about white people in Von Leben des Menschen und der Erde. I don't know what that is, but that's what it comes from. I actually scrolled up earlier in the article to read this paragraph as well. Steiner dedicated 10 years of his life to this theosophical movement, becoming one of its best-known spokespeople and honing his supernatural skills. He broke from mainstream theosophy in 1912, taking most of the German-speaking sections with him. When Besant and her colleagues declared the young Krishnamurti, a boy they discovered in India, to be the reincarnation of Christ, Steiner was unwilling to accept a brown-skinned Hindu lad as the next quote-unquote spiritual master. What had separated Steiner all along from Blavatsky, Besant, and the other India-oriented theosophists was his insistence on the superiority of the European esoteric traditions.
And I think Gigi Young briefly mentioned that in her Mars series, because she talked about how I don't know, Hitler's dark and the Mars series, but it wasn't impactful for me to the point where I actually don't remember what she said. And that's a really big deal, right? If you're referencing a German mystic who Hitler also referenced in some capacity, I think she talks about the Vrils, right? Which is the secret society that Hitler referenced. But I had this misinterpretation, or maybe an interpretation, that Rudolf Steiner was also a mystic that Hitler referenced. And I don't know, is that true? What's up with that? And I started to feel a little bit more skeptical of her work.
Belief systems that contribute to genocide are bad. And I'm going to distance myself from any belief system that contributes to genocide, because that's the opposite of evolution of humanity. Alright, so one of my core spiritual beliefs personally is that we are all one, that the ego is separation, and that the soul is oneness. I personally believe that spirituality itself is the journey towards oneness. So I disagree with any belief system that perpetuates separation, because I feel like that goes against the fundamental nature of spirituality. So I disagree with this worldview. I feel like anthroposophy is interesting because they claim that they are a spiritual science. And I think that what originally drew me to anthroposophy before I learned of all of this, because I did keep watching Gigi Young's work when she got into anthroposophy. I think what drew me in was my own victim consciousness. Like, I had a lot of unhealed trauma and I felt victimized. So I think something about there being these, like, it's really a deep thing to explain, but it's like something about, like, her talking about things and as though there's like a spiritual order to them sort of made me feel powerful in this weird sort of way. But it also made me feel like I was being condemned at the same time, because I had to, like, find my place in this, like, hierarchy of spiritual power. And this was a very subconscious thing. It was a very psychological thing. And it really got under my skin because as a trans person, I started to wonder if I was okay, like, as a human, like, in her content, because I couldn't find my place in her cosmology, which I'm going to talk about later in this video. And to be really clear with you, I never really agreed with any of anthroposophy. It's not just about races if you don't know a lot about it. Anthroposophy is like esoteric Christianity. So they mix Christianity with, like, Buddhist concepts. They include reincarnation with that. And then they also sort of include astrology with it. And it pulls from deep ancient truths from all over the world, which is why it has such a pull and why a lot of the content feels really important and sacred. But then there's these, like, racist undertones in there. And because there's just one little kernel, and this is an understatement because I actually feel like the core of anthroposophy is racist, but the fact that there's like cords and threads of racism and separation in this religion makes me find it necessary to disbelieve the entire religion, because I feel like if the core of something is bad, I'm not going to stick around for the pieces that are good. And some people would disagree with me and be like, it's okay to take things that you believe with. And I'm like, yeah, but, like, I think of it in terms of, like, psychology. Like, I don't know, Charles Manson made, like, beautiful music, but, like, that doesn't make me want to listen to his music. I don't know. I'll probably make a whole video about this, but it's like, because there's, like, fundamental core, like, psychological confusion within these statements about racism. Like, obviously Stiener was confused in this regard. Why should I believe anything else that he says about human evolution, right? When this initial idea is so backwards. How do I know that all of his other ideas are not backwards too? Because he was fundamentally racist. If Steiner really is teaching about evolution of humanity, why is it that his exact teachings are things that contributed to one of the most destructive things in humanity's evolution? I mean, if we're really talking about evolution here, this is a really big deal, right? And, like, I don't think that it's healthy to follow the teachings of someone who the Nazis favored. That's sort of the epitome of the complete opposite of human evolution. And evolution and ego are not the same thing. And I think my only inference in regards to why Gigi Young has followed his work is because I think that she's clinging to these teachings from a place of trauma as well. I think that, like, I know that in her earlier video she described being bullied, and I think that maybe maybe that trauma is kind of reverberating into these teachings because now she feels validated in what she thinks that she knows and maybe feels powerful about it. She would disagree with me. A lot of people would disagree with me. That's okay. I don't really care. I just think that like evolution should be taught from a place of accepting every form of weird. Evolution should not be taught from a place of hierarchies. That's like the epitome of ego.
I don't understand why online Gigi Young has not addressed the major downfalls that anthroposophy has had. That includes some of the darkest, most horrible, grisly parts of human history. I don't understand how she, in her right mind, can't talk about that, right? And if I'm wrong, and if I am saying something that's misconstrued, please, Gigi Young, please make a video correcting me so that I can understand. Because I have this misinterpretation, or I might be wrong, but I really feel like Hitler was into anthroposophy. So, can we talk about this? That's my first critique. Needless to say, I'm watching her videos talking about good and evil. I feel weird. I feel ostracized. I'm a trans person. I'm also the weirdest kind of trans person because I am a gender non-conforming trans person. So I'm not even trying to look like a traditional person. I'm trying to look like an androgynous person, right? And I'm like, oh my god, is there something wrong with me for being who I am? This is sort of opposite. This perspective that watching Gigi Young's work is inviting me to think about is opposite of what it used to be. It used to be, show me you're weird. It used to be, I'm open to everything. It used to be, I am here for the weirdos and those who are ostracized because I've been there and I understand you. That's what it used to be. And it became, if you do something that I have read in my book that is wrong, and I've read this book and I've measured society according to what I've read, then you're wrong and you're gonna go down a dark path. And I noticed this shift in her perspective during COVID. During COVID, she started talking about things like 1984 and technocracy, which, by the way, her work in 2020 was profound. Profound. I watched it and I was like, yes. Like, and it's happening right now before my eyes. I am aware of everything that she's saying happening right now before my eyes. So, I fucking love those videos. They're amazing. Okay? I don't know what happened to Gigi in her personal life in the years coming, that 2021, 2022. But something happened because ever since she started channeling the messages about end times, which her direct channelings of it was great. I will link those in the description if you guys, if you want, if I want, I don't know. But then after that, when she started to get really like, it's almost like she became aware that there was an evil in the world. And she was like, we can't go down this path. But then she wasn't able to come up and find the light again in herself. So now her work is sort of this perpetual echo of like, don't do it. Don't go to evil. Don't go down the evil path, okay? I don't find it ethical for me to publicly read her anymore. I know that I also posted a second video publicly reading her, and I don't find that ethical because it just doesn't, because it's like she's not gonna watch it, and like my YouTube channel's for my viewers, right? It's not for her. Like, I want this video to be interesting regardless of who you are, regardless of whether or not you are her, you know? So I've deleted that video as well, right? So I'm gonna speculate. I'm not going to like formally figure out what happened in her life, but what I speculate is pertaining to where she lives. I don't know where Gigi Young lives, but I think that she has said that she lives in Texas or Georgia or somewhere in the South. Now, I don't know if Gigi Young has ever visited California or the other side of the country. I know that she's from Saskatchewan, Canada. So I have this feeling that there's a judgmentalness in the area that she lives in. She also has said that she was bullied pretty severely when she was in high school. In one of her videos, I think in 2017, she said that people poured toilet water on her when she was in high school. Okay. Um, I don't know if this is me saying private content because that was publicly online. I know it's been deleted now, so if I'm saying something that is illegal for me to say, you could just say that I'm lying. I don't think that it's wrong for me to say this. Do you see how defensive I'm getting? I'm just gonna stop right there. Anyway, I know she was bullied in high school. So my speculation is this: as above, so below. Okay. Our internal world creates our external world. My speculation is that she created this content out of a place of wanting to feel like she belongs somewhere. And when she discovered that she does belong, she created her membership group to feel like she's creating her own little, place where everybody belongs. Which I think came from a really true, heartfelt desire. Because I feel like she hasn't fully healed or integrated or gotten to the other side of the trauma from feeling ostracized for so many years, she has manifested an external life where she still lives in a physical location where she feels ostracized. I live in a physical location where everybody in my town is spiritual. I can talk about spirituality to strangers that I meet in my town. If I ask someone at the grocery store what their astrology signs are, they will tell me all of their planets. It's the weirdest thing in the world, but I love it. Okay? Gigi Young lives somewhere where I don't think that's possible. I've never been to the South. I will visit at some point. I will carry pepper spray with me when I visit. Because as a trans person, I'm scared for my safety in the South. But I know that in the South, culture is different. And I know that culture is very religious. And I know that there's a need to sort of prove yourself in the South. And I know that, look how dark things are getting right now, too. That's an interesting thing. I know that in the South, people are less likely to heal their trauma and they're more likely to run to intellectualism. Think about Stanford, think about Harvard, think about all that fancy ass stuff in the South where people just go to school, they think it saves their life, and then they're like, they're like having like secret prostitute sex and the politicians are all like secretly gay, like having gay sex. Oh, I'm such a jerk. I'm like telling everybody's secrets and like and like I don't know, it's funny, like everyone's like so scared down there, and there's so much homophobia and there's so much transphobia and there's some Bible Belt people out there. So of course a mystic like Gigi Young would feel the dark underpinnings of society during COVID, would feel it in her geographical location, would feel the propensity and the darkness and the pain and the suffering of the planet, but wouldn't feel the resolve of it. And then would be around all these really, really scared, judgmental Christian people and would feel this need to validate her own work to herself, her own beliefs to herself, and to actually feel normal for the first time in her life. And so then she just goes into this like, no, my work is valid because I resonate with this man from like the 20s who has a valid book and I have initiations from him, and then she just like talks about it as though it's like this truth. But I know that something has changed because when I watch her content, I feel ostracized. When I watch her content, I feel how I'm sure she felt when she was a kid being bullied. She feels like she's my bully now. It feels like she's bullying me. And that's how I felt when I read those emails from her supervisor, her administrative guy, Doug. I felt like I was being bullied. And when I read the email today, like, I don't think I was being bullied. He didn't seem mean. He seemed very professional, but because I'm intuitive, I could feel this sense of ew directed at me. Like, that's what I felt. and it felt like it was ew, but but in front of the ew was all of this intellectualness, like I'm right, you're wrong, this is why, in my mind. And I was like, okay, I see it, you know. It's no longer this like group where we can get together because we're weird and show me you're weird. Now it's this like, I'm gonna put on my glasses and read the book and I have the answer. This is what I think. And it's like this like nerd cult. It's like a spiritual nerd cult. And I'm saying cult lightly here. I'm not trying to accuse you of being in a cult. But what I will say is Gigi Young did make a video. Gigi Young did make a video talking about when spiritual teachers like kind of fall, and she said one of the signs that they like fall is when they it's like her video is called Spiritual Narcissism, and I think it was made in 2017. She said that what happens is they get off on their fame, and you know, fame is like it's almost like a drug. Like when you become famous, you get a lot of energy from your viewers, and it becomes easy to not do as much spiritual work because you think that because so many people like you, it's like, okay, I'm good. I think that maybe, and so then you stop channeling content based off of your own information. You start creating content based off of other people's information. She literally said that in 2017. I'm not sure if the video is still there. If it's deleted, I'm like, okay, why did you delete it? I'll look. But it's just weird. It's weird, okay? Because look at this. Now she's not making videos based off of her own ideas. She's making videos based off of like ancient esoteric ideas. And she started talking about how like you need to have like some kind of like system to like base your work off of. Like you can't just go off of your own like stuff. Like it's almost like she's like, my past self was woo woo and now I'm okay. And it's like what's that about, you know? Anyway, so this is where we get to my second critique. I don't know if she's intentionally doing this, but she is plagiarizing a little bit here. There's a book that I own called Esoteric Anatomy, and it is about how to do energy healing on someone, knowing that our organs connect to other systems. I don't think it's okay that she's titling a course Esoteric Anatomy when there is literally a book called Esoteric Anatomy that I own, that I'm gonna go get right now, by the way. You guys, I have the book. Esoteric Anatomy. Did Gigi Young write it? No, she didn't. Okay, listen to this. The evolutionary cycle. And I'm reading it from right here. The mechanics of the process in which the primordial energy unfolds, the foundation of all creation, we call the evolutionary cycle. Cosmic evolution proceeds from the unconscious, unmoving, unknowable, and unmanifest macrocosm of consciousness, moving, knowable, and manifest microcosm. Human evolution is a return journey from the gross physical plane of the microcosm back to the unmanifest macrocosm. How is this different and similar to what she's teaching in her course, Esoteric Anatomy? Young, do you know that this book was already written? Like, can you title your course with a different name that is yours? Like, what is going on? The fact that she hasn't really been posting any original content since the Mars Mysteries says a lot to me. It says that there's something that she's not doing. It says that there's some work. There's some sort of work that she's not doing. Does that make sense? Here's the book. Esoteric Anatomy by Bruce Berger, called The Body as Consciousness. This book was written in 1998. Okay, look. Copyright 1998. Okay. how does, like, she's got to know that someone else has written this down. I mean, look at these diagrams, right? Look at this. Is Gigi Young citing her sources? Is she citing her sources? Like, I've had this book for like the last like 5 years. Like, this is stuff that I've studied, and she's not. She's acting like this is like new content. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't understand. Like how you can make a course. How you can make a course with the same title as a book from the 90s.
What's up? I'm just doing my dishes and cleaning my house. Okay, I also have another thought as well. I do think that a lot of Gigi's perspective is very important because I do see clearly her trajectory into fully assimilating and understanding in her own body the science of spirituality. But I feel like she really needs to take her work more seriously. And I don't mean what you think, Gigi. I don't mean like intellectually seriously. This is my cat. I mean like emotionally in your heart. Because you're trying to understand, and I mean understand. You're trying to understand in the mind the mystery of consciousness itself. And I do feel that you do hold the keys spiritually within you to fathom the mysteries. You have to realize that these are keys that can open the deepest understandings of human consciousness, and these exact same keys can close it too. Knowledge is a sword. Okay, so wield it carefully. Knowledge is very different from wisdom. You're teaching concepts that you yourself have not been initiated in. And there is a wisdom to teaching only things that you have been initiated into, because there's value in sharing your subjective experience, because no single person is going to have the objective truth. And it's delusional to try to make that the way it is, and it's delusional to try to have the objective truth in any capacity, in my personal opinion. I think that letting go of any emotional attachment is going to help you with this. You know, people don't have to like you for what you say. I don't know why I'm saying all this. But yeah, just be so freaking aware of what you're doing. Because I know that you're still sort of like coming into it and finding things that you resonate with, and you think you know a lot right now. Maybe you do. But true wisdom isn't in the mind, you know? It's not in the knowing. It's there's something else with that one. And it's very strange to, I don't know, witness someone talking about things like rainbow body with so much anger. So, my cat's gonna say hi in a minute. Oh, she's good. Okay, bye. I feel like your ego has attached to the ideas of higher and lower spheres as better and worse spheres. I saw in a Q&A that Gigi Young did in 2024, I don't remember what it is, but if I randomly do, I'll link it in the description. I saw in a Q&A she did that she thinks that mediumship is like bad because it's like linked to like the lower astral or the moon realm, or I'm sure there's some specific thing that she'll say. I find that fundamentally untrue. I know that there is some like darker qualities to mediumship. I think the best way I can quote it is in my book of Sabian symbols, Sagittarius 13. Let me just get that really quick. My cat wants out too. Okay, so let me just find the book. I mean the page. Okay, so this is what I think of mediumship.
I didn't write this book. Death Sagittarius 13, an embalmer at work on a mummy. Death manifests among the living in myriad forms and guises. It is unforgettable in its imprint. Those who are drawn to get close to death and to get involved with it have their own set of challenges accordingly. Will they get wrapped up in the lesser levels of death and turn into habitual trapped creatures? Or will they extend the range of their affinity and their allegiance to encompass the redemptive and regenerative aspects of death? Being magnetized to relive previous deaths and to learn the ways of death, to fathom its mysteries, and being able to move among the many sides of this equation. But ultimately, drawn either to indulge in the regressive loop of being in circles of reoccurrence, swept away, or to open up to the space tremendously, to collaborate with the lively ones among the dead, and to discover in their world, which is scooped out in that exquisite sensibility through which the lively dead see this world. They celebrate its free becoming more fully than anybody else would ever be able to approach in that sparkling way. That's what I think of mediumship. You can get lost in the sauce, you can get lost in the lesser levels of death, or you can use mediumship to reach enlightenment and to fully allow yourself to die and be reborn. I'm a medium. It's a lot of what I am I want to say gratefully initiated into, but that's a difficult thing for me to admit because the path that I walk is really, really, really hard. I have psychologically, and I even would suspiciously say spiritually, gone through periods of death so many times in my life that I would say, like, I don't know, 10 times in my life at least. If you watch my channel and you watch my journey, you'll be able to see it physically on me in my energy. But I've had moments where I've I don't want people to think I'm weird. Where I've crossed over, where I've gone into a deep meditative state after experiencing tremendous spiritual pain. I've sort of gone into this state inside myself where I've gotten so still, and I've seen my life, and then after I've faced it, I went into a place where everything was love and everything was illuminated, and I stayed there forever, and then I came back, and then I woke up, and I just, went to the bathroom and went about my day. And that's the work that I do. Like, that's that ability that I have within myself to kind of shed my own skin and transcend is something that I give to my clients when I work with people therapeutically, and it's something that I guide people through. And for Gigi Young to say that mediumship is of the lower astral realm is like to deny the deepest form of work that I do, and I find it very bizarre. I'm like, fuck, I guess you haven't experienced death then. I don't know, I die all the time. I hope I'm not alone. I know a lot of mediums who feel the same way. So, but it's a fine fucking line. It's a fine line. So I get what she's saying, but there is a line, and there is a thread that we toe, and respect traditions. Respect traditions that you don't understand. Respect the things that you don't understand. You're never gonna understand everything. You're never gonna understand everything, and if you spend more time feeling accepted by people and being in community and having fun, then it's not going to matter as much whether you understand something or not. I just can't go about my life worrying that my mediumship is lower astral. Fuck, Here's this painting I did. Look, check it out. It's this is a painting I did of the divine masculine and the divine feminine, and in the middle, in between both of it, is God, and this is what balance is, right? We can't say that like one thing is like good or bad. Like it's both. Like this is a portal to like the deepest balance. So just respect the portal, man. Shit, I have another one. This is like diarrhea of the mouth. Okay. Anyway, so weird. I also like get this sense that like I don't know how to explain this. It's man, I don't want to say this because I don't want to come across as like a jerk. But I get this sense that like there's still like an amount of like novelty that Gigi has about what she's saying. Like when I watch her content, because I'm watching her death video right now because I'm trying to understand some things myself. I do still feel drawn to her because I know that she has a wealth of knowledge. But I have to repeat myself and say that knowledge is very different from wisdom. And I think that like she has this perspective that's like she's read something in a book and resonates with it and is like, okay, this is cool. And I think that a lot of her spiritual initiations thus far have been, and she might get offended by this, and if you do, like, take this as an opportunity to do shadow work, please. But it's like, I got this feeling that, and don't shoot the messenger, that, do you see how insecure and scared I feel about saying this? I'm acting like way younger than I actually feel. Okay, so I get this sense that like she still sort of views what she's teaching as something that she read in a book that resonates with her, but it's almost from this place of like subtle inspiration and then deep awareness. And I also get the sense that it's like she's being guided by spirit to communicate these truths in her own understanding, but like she's still also understanding as well. This is a distinction to make, because this is a distinction to make. It's different from people who have come to these understandings organically. I'm gonna say that, and I know it's gonna offend her, but it's true. There are people who have come to these understandings organically.
And Rudolf Steiner is very different from one of these people because he's taking all of these different Eastern ideas and merging them with Christianity, and B, most importantly, somebody who has experienced these kinds of initiations would not be racist, because spirituality is a journey towards oneness. People who have experienced really deep spiritual initiations that show them the secrets of consciousness itself are not racist, because they know that we're all one. They don't just know it in their mind, they know it in their body. They don't create ideologies that are based on hierarchies. Okay? People who follow them do, because they use their egos to misunderstand their teachings. But Rudolf Steiner is not a high spiritual initiate. And I know this because if he was, he wouldn't have said those things about root races, because those things are fundamentally wrong and confusing to me, because spirituality is different from separation. These are just my beliefs. And Gigi Young's following of someone like this is a reflection of her own discernment or lack thereof, and where she is spiritually. Avoid judging her or condemning her or yourself in any possible way. There's a reason why she resonates with Steiner's work. There's a reason why I have resonated with some of Steiner's work. There's a reason why people resonate with it. And I believe that it's based off of trauma. And I believe that it's based off of fear. And I just I just humbly ask Gigi Young and her followers to really consider if what they believe is truly healing themselves and humanity.
These people are considered spiritual masters. These people are considered spiritual teachers. These people are the people who have written the holy texts, right? Or who have spoken the holy texts or whatever. I'm trying to say that I think that her interest in these really deep occult subjects is something that has happened in her heart organically, and that she's genuinely interested in it, but I don't think that she has herself experienced it, which does give her information channeling. And I'm not gonna, it's not really channeling, it's more like she has, like, how do I explain it? It's like, it's almost as though like there's like a PowerPoint that she's made, and she's channeling how to best describe that PowerPoint. And that's like a very, 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 very different position to be in contrast to having walked and lived that experience, and you're sharing it because you're telling your story. And that's the path that I walk. And that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be telling my story. I don't really know what the fuck it means. God told me to do it, so that's what I'm gonna do. I have to do it to respect God. I wish I could tell it to you in words, but the truth is that it's something that I best can describe through art, and I will. But yeah, I don't know, like, who this is meant for. If it's Gigi or if it's like her viewers, just know that people who really have experienced the rainbow body, or who have experienced transcendental stuff, they're not mad at science, and they don't tell you to hate people, whether it's in a really subtle way or in a really overt way. In order to experience those kinds of initiations, you have to be in a state of unconditional love for humanity. And so it's like, it's a natural byproduct that you would experience both, like, love for humanity and those initiations. And it's very dangerous. It's very dangerous to teach these really, 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 really sacred concepts from a place of any ego at all. That's why knowledge is dangerous, because you can think that knowing something gives you the upper hand, and it doesn't. You're subject to all the mysteries that you talk about. You're subject to all of them. You are also subject to this convergent and divergent path that you speak of, which in reality everything is perfect, in my personal opinion, and God will find you at every corner, so it's okay if you mess up. And there's also not really a such thing as messing up, but I'm not here to talk about my personal differences in belief between me and Gigi Young. I'm simply speaking on the emotional idiosyncrasies that I feel in her thoughts and her energy, that I believe is muddying the stream of her transmissions. And I'm saying this because I really value her work, and I also can tell that her breadth and her power comes from emotional transmissions of consciousness throughout time. I have to be really clear in saying that I prefer her work before she got into Stiener. I find those teachings that she did to be the most profound because they came from her direct experience. And I don't know what happened that has made her devalue direct experience, but I do find that very interesting, and I highly advise her to move to a different state, because the South is just really bad. and I it sounds like really basic, but it's like, in the South, like, there's so much judgment and so much, like, you gotta be this way. And in California, people just do not care. People do not care. And people are not going to ding you for talking about spirituality. People don't give a shit. People are like, freedom. So just, I don't know. Go to California. I don't know. Okay, God, can I clean my house now, please? Oh, this should also be obvious, but it's important to remember that, like, even though you're teaching like objective concepts, like, you're still teaching those concepts from your subjective voice. So, like, whatever you're teaching, like, that's your soul's perspective. No matter how much you want to pretend that it's the perspective, it's still your soul's perspective. Yeah. I'm also, like, I just have to say, like, I'm not upset about this. I'm not, like, angry or anything. I feel, like, really neutral and pretty calm about this. If anything, I'm disturbed about, like, Rudolf Steiner and the Nazis. Like, that kind of gets to me. But, like, overall, like, the contents of this video, and, like, I'm not trying to, like, tell you, Gigi Young, that, like, you're doing something wrong or that you're bad, and I'm not trying to, like, challenge you or, like, I don't know, like, I'm not trying to, like, pick a fight with your ego. So please don't take what I'm saying as, like, a call to arms or like an FU. Like, I'm just trying to do my part as, like, a mystic. So, just take it with a grain of salt. I don't have any ill will towards you or anything. I personally feel like in any culture, in any spiritual setting, I don't care what it is, if anybody is inviting you to hate or to think a specific group of people is wrong, it doesn't matter. Cut it off. Especially in this time where we are being invited to polarize in every way, every form. There is no way in this time on the planet that any form of polarization and a right group and a wrong group is ever going to lead us to a collective evolution. I don't care what you think. Like, it's not okay to hate people who are going down the AI path. It's not okay to hate people who are doing things that you don't agree with, okay? If we hate people like that, we give them so much power. Of course I don't agree with what Elon Musk is doing. Of course I don't agree with, people in secret societies doing fucked up things or whatever Gigi Young's against at this point. What I'm trying to say is that, hating these people is going to make it worse. And I don't know what battle she's fighting in her own mind. I don't know what's going on, but this is not the person who I knew 6 years ago. This is not my mentor who helps me feel less weird. Now I'm having to look through her and use the discernment that she taught me against her. And it's a really weird experience because I feel like I lost someone. And I know I never really met her, it's not like we're friends, but I do feel grief about my favorite spiritual teacher becoming the complete opposite of who she used to be. Makes me really sad. And like the apocalypse and stuff, how anything goes and how we are using and making things all the time, how culture is accumulating and destroying, and how we don't have a common ground to stand on except for our heart or our ego. So, what common ground are we going to stand on? Our heart or our ego? Gigi Young, you have no choice but to teach through your heart. Okay, that's all I got to say. I'm done.